Hey everyone, so in this video I want to take a look at another asset pack on the Unity Asset Store. This time we're going to take a look at Mini Tank Pack by Fubu Studios. This one is just under $5 USD at the time of this recording. It's $4.99 USD and I purchased it last night. I figured this would be a good addition because I've covered a couple other tank packs recently and they're all within a similar price range, so this way you can compare and contrast them and decide if any of them meet your needs. As typical, if you purchase a package on the Unity store, you would download it by going to Window, Package Manager, My Assets, and then you download the package, and this time it's Mini Tank Pack. Once you've done that, you get a new folder called Miniature Tank Package, and we're going to take a look at the demo scenes. Now, the reason why there's two demo scenes is because they take two different visual approaches. They're very similar, but you will see that there is a distinct difference. So with this approach, it's very much meant to look like a toy. It's meant to look like a collectible. That's probably why they call it miniature. So you've got these soft round edges and you've got this plasticky kind of sheen to everything. So it looks very soft, looks very plastic. But if you click on this one, you can see the edges become angular. So they're not round and soft anymore. And it's a much more dull lighting scheme. So I wouldn't say that makes it realistic, but it doesn't make it look so overtly like a toy. So you probably could get away with using this in a situation where the tanks aren't meant to be toys per se. Kind of futuristic, but not toys. And what I'm about to show you, you can do with either one. So one of the important things to know when you have objects like this is, can they be independently animated? And the answer is yes. So the turret at the top can indeed be independently rotated. So depending on what you're doing, you could have the tank driving in one direction, but you're aiming the turret with, say, the other analog. So if you're using like a game controller, you could use one analog stick to move the tank, another one to aim the turret, that kind of thing. You can aim this vertically as well, so you can do this, but you'd get a clipping issue. So what you'd probably do is you'd want to make a modification to the tank before you start using it in game, like raise the top up a little bit. Depending on how much you raise it, you might want to add like a connector under it so it just doesn't look like it's floating out in space. But yeah, so the main thing is that the turret is can be animated independently. Same thing for this one. You can indeed rotate this. Now, in another package that we looked at, there was, I believe, a truck that had a missile launcher in the back. Now, you could indeed independently reposition you could change the angle of that missile launcher, but the problem is, because of where they put the pivot, it also needed to be physically moved as well. So you couldn't just rotate it, you had to move it. So you really couldn't aim it in real time because you'd be changing the position and the rotation, and that gets really messy looking. Whereas here, as you can see, they put the pivot in the right place, so you can animate this in real time. So I think that's a really big plus for this package. So you could use one of two methods. There might be another one that I'm not thinking of. You could create a pre-made animation. So maybe you're doing something like Advanced Wars, and you want to have a whole bunch of tanks all aim at once with a fixed angle. You could create a pre-made animation where you rotate it, and then using a C# script, you just say play animation, and all the tanks aim at the same time. However, if you're doing something like the old game Scorched Earth or something like Worms, where you're trying to precisely aim, you probably wouldn't use a pre-made animation. You would probably use like angle of velocity or something where you can very precisely set the rotation. Might not even use angle of velocity, you might use Euler angle. So there's a bunch of ways to do it. I don't want to get too deep into that. I just want to let you know that the bottom line is you can indeed re-angle this. You can aim this in real time. Same thing for this one. You just have to drill down to the child of a child, and the cannon can indeed be animated in different directions. Okay, so the next thing that I want to point out is that the treads themselves are also already animated. It's very clever what they did and also very simple. So as you can see, these are moving forward, these are moving backwards. Is that a problem? No, because what they did is they gave you the ability to, on a tank by tank or object by object basis, decide which direction those are scrolling in. So let's take a look at the script that makes that work. So tank track anim. It's pretty straightforward. They're creating a float, so that's just going to be a number. They're saying, let's take a look at the material that is attached to this object. Okay. And then they just combine them. So here's the float that we just set up there. Actually, no, it's not. Sorry. Scroll speed is here. So they're creating a new float offset. My apologies. And they're simply saying time.time times the scroll speed. And then they're applying that offset to the material. So material.set texture offset, and they're applying the offset speed. So what you would do is you could make either this negative, but here's the thing. This applies to every single object that's using this script. So if I do a negative, watch what happens. They all change. So these are moving backwards and now these are moving forward. So is there a way to do it on a case-by-case basis? Yes, and that gets back to this, the public float. By making a variable public, as long as you don't make it static, if you make it public, it becomes accessible in the inspector. So scroll speed, so we'll save this with the negative removed. And so I've got this tank selected, and there's the scroll speed. So I could make just this one negative. And see, now you've decoupled them. This one is moving forward while this one is still moving in reverse. So that's what you could do. You could do a combination of changing the value. So is it 1, 2, 3.5, depending on how fast or slow you want it to be? And is it moving forward or backwards, -1 or +1? In this case, it's a little bit confusing because the negative would actually be forward and positive would be backwards, but if as long as you can remember that, it's not a big deal. You might find yourself accidentally using the wrong value when you're designing this. So the last thing really is, now that I've shown you the review and now that I've shown you how the built-in functionality works, let's just do a quick demo of how you would use this in a game. So we're going to use a lookout demo because I didn't do lookout in the last tank package because there was an issue where the front of the object was actually, so the front of the model was the side of the mesh. So for whatever reason, when they made it, if you said have this object look at another object, it wouldn't face with the front of the tank. It would face with the side of the tank because that was actually the front of the model. So my apologies. It's kind of messy to try to explain, but every object has a front. Well, when they made this, for some reason, the side of the mesh, so the side of the tank, was the front of the model. So I have reached out to the developer, let them know. They said they'd be happy to change it. I haven't seen an update yet, but if they do, I'll definitely let you know that that's been done. But again, that's not this package. That's a previous one that I viewed. So I was just saying that I couldn't do the look at in that one without making substantial changes. Because of this one, you can easily do the lookout. And again, that's part of the reason why I do these reviews, is so you can go into this knowing how easy or hard this is to implement in what you're doing. So what are we going to do? We are going to go to Prefabs. Let's use their platform since they provided it. Let's just make this bigger. Let's go to here. We'll put in a tank. We'll put in this. And we're just going to have one look at the other and travel in that direction. So let's put this one off in the distance here. Okay. We'll put the camera up. We'll rotate it down. Now what we're going to do, just so you know I'm not fibbing, we're going to take this tank, and you can see the tank. Okay. We're going to rotate this away. We're going to prove that look at is working. So this tank is not looking at that object. You can clearly see it's pointing away. So I already wrote the script since people said they don't like to see me type, which is understandable because I'm very slow at typing. It's called look at, although you'd probably actually give this a different name. But since that's the only function this is doing, that's why I call the script. All right, so there is a public variable here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take that. So what I've done is I've taken this and put it into that target object variable, and I'll explain that in just a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that script. So here is creating the linkage, so target object. And we're doing two things. In the start section, we're saying get component, transform, look at, target object. So it's doing what the tin says. It's saying look at this. So this script is attached to the tank. The tank is now looking at the other object, and we're just giving it simple velocity. Get component, rigid body, velocity equals transform forward. Again, because this is using the front of the object, I could not do this with the other package because the side of the model, or should I say the side of the mesh, was the front of the object. And so it would have been moving in a sideways motion. No such problem with this one. We just need to add a rigid body because I have not done that yet. We'll get rid of gravity. And if I did not forget anything, that should do it. So we already confirmed that the tank is facing away. Okay, so it should indeed now be pointing at this and travel towards it. There we go. Looks like this particular object does not have the animation script on it, but you've already seen that in the other one, so be easy enough to just add the script. Okay, so I think that should about do it. I hope that you found this useful. If there's anything else that you want to see, let me know. I might do one final video for these 3 tank sets and do like an overt comparison, as well as give the developers a chance to make some of the updates that I mentioned to them. Again, the issue where the front of the object was actually the side of the tank, that kind of thing. Okay, so that should about do it. Please enjoy the rest of your day.